Hello, everyone. Walk Hill Bethelite here. And let's talk a little bit about faith and reason and Jehovah's Witnesses. Really, faith, your ability to believe something not based on facts, but just based off of you're just sure said event is going to happen. And then you have reason, which is somewhat the opposite of that. Your brain's ability to process information, facts, not faith, not make-believe, not any of that, pure facts. Well, there's got to be a collision ready to happen with Jehovah's Witnesses. Because Jehovah's Witnesses, my entire childhood, my entire young adulthood, Jehovah's Witnesses heavily relied upon the economy. The concept that a person could easily get a job. They didn't have to go to college. They didn't have to have higher education. As a Jehovah's Witness, you were directed against getting higher education. You were told college, you're going to be around a bunch of people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. This is not a good environment because there's parties at college, there's drinking at college, and you might get involved with it. And then also, it's Jehovah's Witnesses are a doomsday cult that's just still waiting on doomsday. Doomsday never occurred. So another reason why you were swayed against going to college was because this whole country, this whole economy, the whole world is about to change. Because Armageddon is going to happen. This war between God and everybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness is going to happen. And everything's going to be swept away. So why would you spend all this time going to a college that God is about to destroy any day now? So this was a reality. This was the culture. The Jehovah's Witnesses that grew up around that type of environment, they're still alive. They're still kicking. They may be older. They may be in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. There may be people who are younger, in their 20s, that were swayed against going to college. I know for a fact that this is not a teaching that just went away, because I had relatives, a relative in particular, that had kids, and this relative was telling me that college was bad association. Everybody there was bad. Because in Jehovah's Witness mind, if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're bad. So college was a bad place to send your kids because they get involved with all kinds of different things. And their kids are probably in their early 20s now. So this has got to have affected them. Early 20s, hadn't gone to college, wasted a lot of time. The end of the world's not here. And the way things are going now, you don't have job security. This is affecting Jehovah's Witnesses because back when Jehovah's Witnesses were preaching, hey, the end of the world is around the corner, they still do, but back in the day, you could easily find a job and try to focus most of your attention passing out Jehovah's Witness magazines, watchtowers. You could auxiliary pioneer, spend 50 hours a month going door to door, handing out magazines, not including the time that you're preparing for their watchtower studies at the hall, not including any other activities. So you're spending a lot of time, a lot of focus, not on your career, not on your financial security, but you're spending a lot of time working for Watchtower for free, essentially. That includes Bethelites. That includes Bethelites because they loved having young boys go to Bethel. To this day, I think that's suspect. That Bethel, instead of wanting grown men with work experience, you have grown men that have all this experience and they will work for free for you at Bethel. No, Bethel wanted 20-year-olds who didn't have a whole lot of work experience. They wanted young boys, right? This reminds me of Pinocchio, where there was this place where all these young boys go, and of course, they're not, interested in adults. They're interested in young boys. Yeah, I saw plenty of stuff going on to where I think that's the reason why there are so many of the higher ups wanting to keep young boys around. Why? Because you have people working for free, and you have to incentivize their work. Why would somebody perform well for free? Think about that. At Bethel, think about that. I could just cruise through my assignment. Why would somebody work hard for free? There has to be something they're trying to obtain. This is off the topic of the economy and where jobs are now and how many people are competing for all these jobs. And it's not just easy for Jehovah's Witnesses to just grab one with no college, no real training, no real career building. They may not even have a resume. They're focusing on preparing for doomsday. That just never occurs. So the world around them, they ignore it until they can't ignore it no more. But let's get back to what I was saying about Bethel. I think Bethel, in order to keep people happy, working for free, there has to be incentive. For people who are heterosexual, the incentive is that you can essentially pick out almost any woman in the cult. And unless there's some reason that she's somewhat a little bit more awake or independently thinking more so than most women, unless there's something going on, she'd be highly interested in a Bethelite. So then that's the reason. You want to work at Bethel, you want to progress, get titles, become a Bethel elder, become an overseer. You get these titles and you got your pick of the litter, right? For people who are maybe a little bit not heterosexual, you got all these young boys in plenty, reigning young boys at Bethel, just reigning young boys, just all the time. There's a new boy. That's what they call them. Think about it. Use your brain. Use your reason and not faith, and just believing all these people at Bethel are just good because they're just good because they are. And they're just got halos around their heads and they call them new boys. When I was new at Bethel, they knew not just because they hadn't seen me before, because somebody could be from Patterson or Brooklyn or somewhere else visiting. They knew because I had this big old packet that I'm carrying around with a schedule in it, and it's got a map so I can find stuff. So somebody came right beside me and said, "Oh, we got a new boy." That's what you are, a new boy. But if you think about it, for somebody that is not heterosexual, that could be a sexual term. New booty, new boy. You know what I mean? You got new booty here. Look at the new booty coming in with all those packets that we have to pick from and choose from. You know what I mean? And hey, I told you guys the experience I had with the grown adult guy, probably in his 30s, or I don't know if he's in his 40s, but he's older, did not have a wife. It's a little bit odd because, it's kind of easy for Bethelites to get wives, and you've been at Bethel that freaking long. You've been at Bethel 20 years, and for 20 years you didn't had your pick of the litter, and you ain't picked one yet. There's something off. There's something odd. So he didn't have a wife, and I'm thinking, oh, this is somebody that's been at Bethel for years. I can learn a lot from him. And the only thing he wanted me to do was to come over to his room when his roommate wasn't there, and he would provide beer. I remember he had Heineken, big, tall thing of Heineken. I walked back to my room with the freaking tall freaking thing of Heineken that I didn't finish. And he's wanting me to lay on the floor. Why would I need to lay on the floor? We're sitting on the couch talking to the guy. The guy's telling me his schedule, and the schedule involves when his roommate is not there. And he's saying, hey, we can get comfortable and lay on the floor. Why would we want to freaking cuddle? I don't want to cuddle with you. They just go through these new boys or the new booty at Bethel, and all these parents just through faith are throwing their sons to the wolves at Bethel, and then when they come back from Bethel when they ain't right in the head, they wonder why. Because you just provided steak, sirloin, filet mignon for the wolves at Bethel. All this new booty. So back to our main topic. Wasn't what motivates people at Bethel to work for free. Early on, it's your love for God, but at some point, it's you want to have a title so you can pick out any woman, or you want to have a title so that you can have your own room, so you can pick out any of these new boys. You know what I mean? And make them your roommate. You know what I mean? It's a real thing at Bethel. The economy. Let's get back to this. It's harder to find jobs. People who worked in the government that we thought their jobs were secure, a lot of them are getting laid off. They're getting fired. Department of Education, a lot of them getting laid off, a lot of them fired. Black generals and female generals and everything else. So you got all these people getting fired. All these people are going back into the job market and looking for jobs. And all of a sudden, it's not so easy to find employment. And the cost of groceries are going up. The cost of things are going up. So you have all these Jehovah's Witnesses who are told their whole lives the end of the world is right around the corner. All you got to do is focus on pioneering. Just pioneering. Everything is going to be all right. Well, pioneering ain't putting food on the table, and food prices are going up. So at some point, reason it's got to be like a rock that just hits you in the head, and that faith, you can't eat faith. Jehovah's Witnesses can't eat faith. You need something to be able to go to the store with, to be able to buy food. Granted, some of them might be on government assistance. But you got to be able to have something to go to the store, buy food. The food prices are going up. Food is more expensive. Jobs are not as easy to find. They want to bring back manufacturing and things like that. And Jehovah's Witnesses love that, because then everybody just go work for a factory and you don't have to think. You work for a factory and you focus everything on the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. But it's not that way anymore. So the question that I have is, how is this affecting the economy? The prices going up, and it don't seem like they're going down no time soon. With tariffs and other people giving us tariffs, and I don't know what all this means, but it don't sound like it means things are getting cheaper. To me, it don't sound like things are getting cheaper with all this stuff, all these taxes on stuff. So If things aren't getting cheaper, things are getting more expensive, and you got all these Jehovah's Witnesses that are waiting for the end of the world, but never focused on career, never really focused on putting a lot of money away or anything like that, reason has got to hit them in the head at some point, and they have to realize that they've been misled. The end of the world was not around the corner, number one. Number two, it was not a good idea for them not to go to college, because if you choose not to go to college and go to work, well, people at work have parties. People at work may not be the best people in the world. You can't avoid people. So it was pointless anyway. And the price of houses could go up from what I'm hearing. The price of cars could go up from what I'm hearing. These are basic things that if the price goes high enough, then just a regular job at McDonald's is not going to do it, or a job at Chipotle. I talked to a Jehovah's Witness that worked at Chipotle. Yeah, he may have a title at the Kingdom Hall. He may have been a ministerial servant or an elder at the Kingdom Hall. So he's got a title, all uppity and whatnot. Gets to get up on stage in front of everybody, but that ain't paying no bills. You going to live at the Kingdom Hall? Chipotle is not going to buy you a house. So what do we do? And then the problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is thinking that pioneering is what's to do. Volunteering more of your time to Watchtower is what to do. So you're a rationally thinking person is thinking, well, shoot, maybe I need to look in grabbing 2 of them jobs, since there isn't any job security for a lot of people. Well, maybe we don't want to have just one. Maybe we want to have 2. A rational thinking person might think that. A Jehovah's Witness is thinking, well, the end of the world is right around the corner, so I just need to hold on for a little while longer. Maybe I need to just focus more on pioneering or auxiliary pioneering and not do anything about this situation. Eventually, reality is going to hit, because Watchtower ain't going to buy you a house. Watchtower ain't going to buy you a car. Watchtower is not going to take care of the maintenance on the car. Watchtower is not going to get you another job if you lose your current job. Watchtower is doing a whole lot of promising BS that the end of the world is around the corner, and Watchtower is not doing anything about the effect that it has on the people who were waiting on what Watchtower promised and not preparing for what would happen if Watchtower was wrong, because faith. They had faith that freaking old suspender slapping herd was right, or freaking transformer face let was right. Why would you even think that somebody like that would be correct about anything? They're not qualified to be leading anybody, and it obviously shows where they've been wrong about everything. So let me know what you think. It could be a good thing. It could wake a lot of people up. Hitting hard pavement, falling down on their face and realizing, I've been focusing all this attention on Watchtower. I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Maybe I need to stop listening to these people, or something's off, something strange. Maybe they're not right about some of the things that they're telling me. Because Jehovah's Witnesses have got to look at your situation. There's a scripture that says, seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and everything else will be added to you, right? So if doing what Watchtower says is seeking first the kingdom, which it's not, you're not applying the scripture. That's why you don't have anything. That's why you don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, right? That's the reason why. So, or you may not believe in the Bible at all, which I understand that. So eventually, Jehovah's Witnesses have got to experience hardship, hardship because they've been listening to Watchtower. Will this wake them up, though? Is this enough to wake them up? Is this enough for somebody who's 70 years old, still waiting on the end, and has got to pay for all these medications and figure out all this stuff, and everything is more expensive, and Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses may not necessarily help? At some point, reason has got to kick in just because of self-preservation. You got to try something different. Younger people, maybe their early 20s, they don't have enough for a house. They're working at Chipotle, and that ain't even, that's not ever going to provide those things. And pioneering ain't getting you no money or getting you anywhere in your career. And you ain't going to be able to live with your parents forever. So what do? At some point, you can't keep listening to Jehovah's Witnesses and Watchtower because it's a doomsday. It's a failed doomsday cult. Doomsday never came. So now all these people got to figure out, what are we going to do now? This should wake people up. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. X Wallkill Bethelite signing out.